Fuck! Hello there, everybody. Sabutter92, aka Nightmare, and finally, fucking finally, almost a year, very freaking close, after I completed Sumi Hiroboshi, we have finally returned to the village of Hinamizawa in Higurashi, Minagoroshi. Now, before today's episode, before we get started, I'm going to give another shout out to the super talented SkydivingQuagga for making the excellent thumbnail template that we'll be doing for this Let's Play / Let's Read. Now, I'm pretty sure people are wondering, why exactly did I have my character dress up as Ire? Well, let's just say part of me wants to think that I've been thinking about, what exactly happened in Hinamizawa. What the actual freaking hell has been happening? Mostly because my brain can't comprehend a large amount of the shit that's going on, and I'm not entirely sure what I should believe at this point. But part of me thinks, with the information that we gleaned in the last time, from a fucking year ago, I think Dr. Iri might actually have some sort of connection. He might be connected to some parts of what's going on here. And that's kind of why I had myself dress up as Dr. Iri. Regardless, this has been a long time coming. For those of you who are kept waiting, I will apologize to you all firsthand. I wanted to wait for the voice patches to come out because I wanted to hear the voice acting like I did last time, but it's officially gotten to the point where I realized that there's no point to me waiting anymore. So, yes, I am going to try to voice act pretty much everything here. Thankfully, specifically thanks to Rose Guns Days and Fata Morgana, I've gotten a little bit better with trying to differentiate, character voices. So I made a little list of some of the major characters that I need to keep keep a mind on for right now. So I've gotten a decent number of voices that I can use. So for those of you who had heard my Shion and Mion impressions, they will sound significantly different now that I've got better voices, I think, that will fit them. Well, specifically voices that I kind of want to stick with. That way they don't sound the same throughout the entire thing. But, more importantly, we've waited long enough. Minagoroshi, the final truth. Massacre chapter? Genius! The story introduces the unit inside and out, using all of the actors. This is no longer a story. It's a public autopsy for all to join. As they say, after loving someone, cut open their belly and eat their organs. It's the same with stories. The difficulty is quite mild, well suited for those with pride. Ah, so newt. Stop laughing at me! Oh. What are you doing? I don't see you playing by yourself that often. All you could do was to nod to my question. Since when do you have your own will? Of course, the moment I get started, I'm already starting to sneeze. I'm glad. I finally have a sister or a brother. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can speed up the text box a little bit. Oh, here we go. Speed that up a little bit. Whatever you are, I used to be an existence of nothingness, just like you. But I started having my own identity, my own thoughts, and eventually, my own body. It's not a surprise to see you having your own will. Welcome to this wide but small world, my sister. You might be my brother, but let me call you my sister until I know your gender for sure. But hold on, let me just check here. Pretty sure I'm a guy. This is an endless world. If you mention anything to do with endless magic, I can already hear Beato laughing. That doesn't mean that this world is wide. Well, I guess I should call the world a ring with a small diameter. There's no end to this ring. But that doesn't mean that there's a wide range of possibilities in this world. In other words, this is an endless, finite world. Those two things don't really, The future is supposed to be formed by countless decisions. But for some reason, our lives always end with death. Yep. This is like a maze of fate. After going through the same world over and over again, you will eventually end up like me. If this world continues, it might eventually be filled with a bunch of your sisters. Then a colony will be made inside this world, and once we lose our interest in this maze, Furude Rika is going to disappear from this world. Rika is still interested in that small world, but I lost interest a long time ago. Okay. I'm so glad to have you. So, what are you doing? Oh my. Hello. Are you collecting pieces of memories? There's only 5 or 6 of them. But I guess it's still fun for you. There used to be more pieces in the past, but they disappeared into the darkness. These are the only pieces left. Oh, that's not how you're supposed to use it. See? Try and hold it up to the light. Those are all Furude Rika's lives and her endings. Oh, the fragments. Oh. Oh, holy crap. That one is... Oh, I remember that one. That's the world when Keiji was cursed. As in, all of them? I called that one the Onikakushi chapter, because these pieces are like stories to me. Oh! Do you remember what happened in the Onikakushi chapter? Oh my god, yes I do. Good. That makes things easier. I thought I did a pretty good job trying to claw out my own throat, honestly. I didn't really claw out my throat, and if I did, you can't prove it. In the Onikakushi chapter, Mayabara Keiji was taken over by the darkness. He couldn't accept any of his friends' kind words, and eventually beat them to death, not knowing their kindness. Oh yeah. We were all killed after that anyway. It had nothing to do with his story, though. You know, I'm guessing that I should probably do like the Okay, I know what to do here. That piece is the Watanagashi chapter. Sonozaki Shion was cursed in that one. She killed many people out of revenge for her boyfriend, who went missing in the 57th year of the Showa era. To be fair, that was like one of my favorites. Rika worked so hard, but she was captured at the end, and she was tortured to death. Oh yeah! That's why she chose to commit suicide in the Mayakashi chapter, because things were going to turn out the same way. Mayakashi was still one of my favorites, and Shion is still my favorite! That other one is called the Minagoroshi chapter. Oh god, don't remind me. Satoko's uncle came back and locked her up inside the house. This was the worst world of all. There was nothing Rika was able to do in that world. Once Satoko's uncle comes back, Rika should just give up on that world. Fortunately, Satoko's uncle doesn't come back that frequently. That one is called the Sumi Horoboshi chapter, the one that is constantly misspelled, like me, because I always fucking misspell it! Rika was there until just a moment ago. Hey! Ryugu Rena was possessed in that world. It was pretty exciting to see her take over the whole school. Amen to that. It surprised me that Mayabara Keiichi had a memory of the other worlds, just like us. It was pretty amazing, but then most of us have some kind of memory. We all have an imaginary world, some idea of what would have happened if I did this and that. It's the strange feeling you get when you do something for the first time, but it feels like it's not your first time. Everyone has a memory of an imaginary world in their mind, but that memory is not that clear. It's not surprising. You are special enough to be able to see those pieces of memory. It's probably very difficult for you to understand how special you are. You were born into a world where it's a natural thing for you to see all these pieces. I was originally born in the normal world. I didn't know until recently that I could collect these pieces of memory. You grabbed those pieces just because you could, but I didn't know how to do that for a long time. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're not interested in hearing my story. I kind of am. Huh? What's wrong? What are you wondering about? What? You wonder why so many different incidents occur in the same world? I know. It's very interesting. Why do you think that's the case? Let's think about it together. Thinking is the first step of playing. The main character among Rika's friends is Mayabara Keiichi. In the Onikakushi chapter, he was possessed by suspicion, and he killed Ryugu Rena and Sonozaki Mion. If that was an inevitable event, he would be killing them all in all of the worlds. In other words, what Mayabara Keiichi does in the Onikakushi chapter is not inevitable. Indeed. The only thing that's inevitable is the role of Mayabara Keiichi itself. If Mayabara Keiichi was someone with suspicious heart, he would take the same actions in every world. But that didn't happen. It's true that Mayabara Keiichi is passionate and easily convinced, but it's rare for him to exhibit the kind of rage he showed in the Onikakushi chapter. That was one hell of a beginner's guide for me getting into Higurashi. Good God! In other words, something might seem inevitable in one world, but it may not be the case if you compare the different worlds. That means that if something is inevitable, it will happen for sure in every life. That's what a true inevitable event is like. It's very important to know that. Compare the different worlds, and what's common among all worlds is the truth. Understand? Sort of. Like I said, what seems inevitable in one life could just be a random event in another life. The club activities that Mion suggests are a good example. If Sonozaki Mion had a strong inclination toward playing certain games, you would be playing them in every world. But in reality, you participate in different activities in most of the worlds. That means that the games they play in the club are randomly decided by Sonozaki Mion. We know that because we've been through many different lives. Yes. Need I remember when Keiichi had to dress up like a... oh boy. Those who only live in one world can't see if the event is inevitable or random. Those who only live once can't predict what's going on in Sonozaki Mion's mind, but we can do that. Although the activities are random, Sonozaki Mion calls us together for the club meeting almost every day in every life. Okay, so that, I'm guessing that this must be, like, the darker part of, like, Rika's personality, I think. Or maybe this is literally Burn Costal. I can see that Sonozaki Mion has a strong will for having the club meeting. Sonozaki Mion always wants to play with the club members, but she doesn't know what to play. See? We can read Sonozaki Mion's mind just by simply examining these pieces. Just by this, we can see part of who Sonozaki Mion really is. Let me talk a bit more about Mayabara Keiichi. Yes, please. For those who only live once, YOLO. The world of the Oni Kakushi chapter is nothing but a story where a Keiichi suffered a mysterious hallucination and beat his friends to death. There's nothing beyond that fact. Well, he had to have had a very powerful and vivid hallucination, which, again, part of one of the theories that I've got in my head is, well, it's realistically, I think it's only supported by maybe Oni Kakushi, and there's a possibility of it being supported by Higurashi, but maybe Keiichi really isn't all that right in the head. Like, there's having an imagination, and then there's such vivid hallucinations. But we can compare different pieces and find out something they could never see. As a result, we know that the murder of his friends was not inevitable. I told you that in the beginning. In fact, there are about 5 or 6 pieces in front of you, but he only kills his friends in one of them. That means I can conclude that the possibility of him becoming the center of a tragedy is less than 20%. He is not likely to be a threat in many of the other worlds. Can you find anything in common from this hint? You found it already? No wonder you were born in this world. You're a fast learner. I didn't find that out for a while. I'm originally from the normal world, so I couldn't see it easily. I was caught up with figuring out who Mayabara Keiichi is. Right! That's exactly right! You see it. The Onikakushi, the Watanagashi, the Mayakashi, and the Sumi Horoboshi chapters all have something in common. I've got 2 of those chapters. They all have something in common. Horoboshi. That was with Rena. Watanagashi. Mayakashi and Watanagashi was a combination of Shion and whoever Mion. Not Monika. Keiichi. But Keiichi is the common denominator. Because Keiichi reminded Shion of Satoshi. Onikakushi, well, is obviously, his relationship with both Rena and Mion, as well as everybody else. Watanagashi explored a little bit about, him getting closer to Shion and Mion, who were swapping places relatively quite a bit. Granted, Shion did it because it reminded her a bit of Satoshi. And then Sumi Horoboshi was, him trying to snap Rena out of her suspicious mental breakdown thing, evil, killed bad lady mindset. Someone in the group becomes violent because of dark and paranoid thoughts. In each world, Mayabara Keiichi, Sonozaki Shion, or Ryogu Rena became violent after succumbing to the fear. Mayabara Keiichi, Sonozaki Shion, and Ryogu Rena are all my close friends, but they were all born and raised differently. The only common factor is that they all live in Hinamizawa. But I just said it not too long ago. When I raise these pieces up to the light, I see the most important truth. There's not a lot of meaning to those suspects who are not common in all the worlds. Also, the form of their violence is not a big factor either. Maibara Keiichi beat his friends to death. Sonozaki Shion killed the central people of the three families, and Ryoku Rena took over the school. They were all different. There's nothing in common. It's important to recognize that the suspects and the incidents differ all the time. But the fact that they are swallowed by the darkness is exactly the same. The suspect changes every time, but the process is always the same. After comparing the different worlds, this is the truth I found. This is the one truth that is common in this world of Hinamizawa. The rule to this world is that a random person becomes violent under the influence of their dark thoughts. This is Rule X. Maibara Keiichi, Sonozaki Shion, and Ryoku Rena all got dragged into that rule somehow. Well, if that's the case, then the common denominator that usually helps build that suspicion was Takano. Because she talked with Rena and fed her the ideas, the suspicious ideas. And Keiichi and Shion have both run into Takano before, and have even talked to her. Well, then again, the same could be said about Oishi, but the fact that if we look back at Sumi Horoboshi, she was the one that instilled a large amount of that suspicion into Rena's psyche with her conspiracy theories. I don't know why they are part of that rule. Perhaps there's some kind of law and order to this. Is it because these three are all close in age? Or is it because they all live in Hinamizawa? But we're not detectives. This is not something that a small girl like us, Furude Rika, can figure out. Okay, so this is the other personality inside her. But at least we know that there's a mysterious rule in the world of Hinamizawa. Whoops. People who only live in one world have no way of knowing that. I'm proud of myself that I figured that out. But I guess for you, it's not something surprising. Huh? What did you say? Oh, that's right. If something is common among all worlds, that means it's fated to happen. Some of them easily come to mind, doesn't it? Right. Tomotaki Jiro and Takano Mio are always killed in those worlds. Yep! On top of that, they are murdered in exactly the same way in every world. Could you imagine if like, the entire world just collapsed if somebody actually, just shot, Tomotaki before he clawed his throat out and all that stuff? It tells me that their deaths are something intentional that happens as the result of someone's strong will. And this is not the same as the inconsistent violence that happens among my friends. And no matter who turns violent, Tomotaki and Takano get killed all the time. I know that there's another rule to these worlds. A rule that says Tomotaki Jiro and Takano Mio will get killed on the night of Watanagashi. Let's call it Rule Y. Do you see there's something humorous going on? Tomotaki and Takano are killed in every world, right? In every world, the character who gets cursed always thinks that Tomotaki's death has something to do with the danger that's awaiting them. The fact that someone turns violent, Rule X, and Tomotaki and Takano's death, Rule Y, are supposed to be two individual rules, but they all tend to link them together. Perhaps that's how they fall under the spell of suspicion. Are they aware that someone is actually trying to goad them into linking these two separate incidents together? Right. That person is making the world in Hinamizawa a complicated place. You should see at least 2 suspicious people. Do you know who they are? Well, Takano for one. That's right. And of course, Oishi. I mean, there was that talk about, people believing that Oishi was an agent of Oyashiro-sama. That's right. They're Oishi Kurada and Takano Mio. You will see who Oishi Kurada is if you connect the previous pieces together. He's a detective who is retiring this year, and he's in a hurry to solve the mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa. After he retires, he has to move away from the village. That's why he's desperate to solve this case before he has to leave Hinamizawa. Why is he so obsessed with this case? That's right. It's because of the first murder involving the manager of the construction site. Yep. The victim was Oishi's close friend. You will see that if you look at the Himatsubushi chapter. I did! Oishi was there when the dam conflict was at its peak. He saw how the Sonozaki family took control of the Onigafuchi Guardians, and he believed that the Sonozaki family was pulling the strings behind the whole incident. That's why he always suspected the Sonozaki family as the suspect of the mysterious deaths in the village. Naturally, his personal biased belief affected the pitiful persecution complex victims of each world. As a result, the victim in each world is led to believe that the Sonozaki family is a danger to themselves. Sonozaki Shion's case was the most conspicuous case in that matter. If Oishi hadn't interfered with the victims so much, they wouldn't have reacted so violently. He's someone who causes the tragedy indirectly. I don't know who named him this, but Oyashiro-sama's servant is the perfect nickname for Oishi. Yep. The other suspicious person is Takano Mio. It seems like all she does is talk about the scary history of Onigafuchi to intimidate other people. However, just like Oishi, she also gives people the idea that the Sonozaki family is controlling all the mysterious incidents that happen in the village. She interfered the most with Ryugu Rena. For Takano Mio, it was easy to use Ryugu Rena. Very easy. I'm sorry, Rena, but you got completely manipulated and it got really bad. But ironically, Takano Mio always ends up getting killed at the end. If she had survived and seen Rena take over the school, she would have laughed so much. Probably. Have you realized that these 2 suspicious people are also following the common rules? They talk about the Sonozaki family, and the listeners always believe them. This is Rule Z, and what a humorous rule it is. You should already have an answer to this mystery. The fact is that the Sonozaki family always acts as if they are responsible, no matter what happens. They were always pretending to be the bad guys, and made sure that people continue to fear them. They certainly made themselves appear like bad guys in Minagoroshi. My hands are still fucking hurting. As a result, the villagers always believed that the Sonozaki family had been pulling the strings ever since the dam conflict ended. Oishi Kurada and Takano Mio were simply fooled by that rule. Actually, the whole village is fooled by it. Yep. But the more I think about it, the stranger the series of the mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa strikes me. Do you know why? I don't know about the previous incidents, because all I have is the memory from the 50th year of the Showa era. But the fact that they are trying to tie up all the incidents together may be the big mistake. They might be relating distinct individual murders as one big case. I can't tell that by the pieces I have, but I should have a hint somewhere. Each case is supposed to be solved already. Yeah, about that. I don't know if that's true, but it might be the truth. Shion was saying something interesting in the Minagoroshi chapter. It's the curse system that she came up with. Do you remember that? I would rather forget it. God! Her theory was that the villagers believe that they are allowed to kill the enemy of the village on the night of Watanagashi, in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse. She believes that the curse happens because murder is allowed on that night. I can't examine this theory solely based on the memory of the 58th year of the Showa era, but this is interesting. Her theory is telling us that the suspect is not the one who's committing the crime. It's the environment that's causing the murder. People tend to analyze the whole life of a criminal, but that's not the point. The real crime is committed not by the criminals, but by the environment. In other words, criminal A might have committed the crime, but the poor environment might have created criminal B, as well as criminal C. Criminal A might not even be a bad guy in another world. Therefore, the real criminal is not A, but the environment that creates A, B, and C. People who live in a single world can come up with this theory. It's more likely, though, that people would just lynch criminal A and overlook his environment. Did I confuse you? Not necessarily. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for it, it's fine. Was my explanation too confusing? No, I think it was actually well worded. It might get a few people, but I think I kind of got the gist of it. It's easy for me to see it like that because I'm from the normal world. Let me make it simple for you. Thanks? The real suspect of these worlds is not an individual like Maebara Keiichi or Sonozaki Shion. It's the environment. The rules of the world are the real suspect. Huh. You're in a pretty good shape if you realize that. All you need to do is to identify the 3 rules within this village. Rules X, Y, and Z. That will put you in a better position. Once you understand this, you'll be able to find the truth much easier. I'm sorry, I had a bit of a stroke. See? Isn't it fun? These worlds seem so different, yet there are only 3 rules that govern them all. This is very interesting. If this was a different place, you wouldn't see much difference in each world. It keeps me excited to just stay here and watch these worlds. Anyway, there's one more piece of truth that I can see. That's the biggest issue Furute Rika is facing. The truth is that Furute Rika is always killed at the end. Yeah. It's as if June of the 58th year of the Showa era is a dead end for her. It's just not a random thing. It happens all the time. That means it's the same pattern as the deaths of Tomitaki and Takano. Their deaths are preordained and can't be stopped, apparently. It's following the exact same rule. Rule Y. Tomitaki Jiro and Takano Mio are always murdered on the night of Watanagashi. Furute Rika's date of death is not always the same, but she's always dead by the middle of June. Tomitaki and Takano are probably attacked on their way home, so that's why it always happens on the same night. But the case of Furute Rika is different. She takes different actions in every world, and her lifestyle is very unpredictable. Yeah, especially considering the fact that she stabbed herself repeatedly in the neck, and it was very messed up. For that reason, the day of her death is not always the same. However, she always dies in June, because someone has a strong intention to kill her in June. Can it be that the death of Furute Rika is related somehow to the deaths of Tomitaki and Takano? Is the same person killing all 3 of them? I don't know if it's done by the same person, but I'm sure they're all connected. Is it the same person? or the same organization? Do they have the same views, or the same goals? Rika's biggest goal is to get away from her deadly fate. But it doesn't mean that she just wants to leave the village and survive. She wants to live happily in the village. All of her friends must also be happy with her. That's the happy future that she hopes for. It's ironic that she can't even obtain that simple happiness after repeating years and years of the same life. We know this tragedy because we've been repeating the worlds with her. By the way, I have some interesting information. Ooh, lay it on me! Most of the time, we don't know who kills Rika. But in some worlds, her death was caused by her possessed friends. Right. It happened in the Watanagashi and the Mayakashi chapters. Furude Rika committed suicide, but she was pretty much killed by Sonozaki Shion in those worlds. Yeah. That means it messed up the plan of the people who were going to kill her later, disturbing Rule Y. Whoever kills Rika has a strong will to kill her, but she was killed before that, as a result of Rule X. The real suspects must have panicked after that. That's unless their only purpose was to just take Rika's life, in which Rule Y was upheld. But if they had other purposes, that should have messed up their plans. Perhaps there might be something in common in the Watanagashi and the Mayakashi chapters that didn't happen in other worlds. Unfortunately, we are Furude Rika, so we don't know what happens after Rika is dead. Or, by any chance, do you know what happened? I only know the world where Furude Rika is still alive. But you're a special existence who was born in the superior world. Is there anything that didn't happen in the Watanagashi and the Mayakashi chapters? I have to think back on that. That happened in all the other worlds after Rika's death. If you know anything, that must be another truth behind Rule Y. The memories I have here are all mainly about the chaos brought by Rika's friends, that is, Rule X. But if the Dark Rules are common among all the worlds, they might be the factors that control the tragedy of Hinamizawa. If that's the case, it will be tough for Rika. She needs to fight Rule Y in order to survive. So I'm guessing that this must basically be the Rika chapter, that we're going to be focusing solely a large amount on her. She needs to fight Rule Y in order to survive, otherwise she will never get out of June of the 50th year of the Showa era. She also needs to save her friends from Rule X. Otherwise, one of her precious friends will have a tragic end. That will defeat the whole purpose of Rika surviving beyond June of the 50th year of the Showa era. She also needs to shatter Rule Z by revealing that the Sonozaki family is actually not a threat, just like how Sonozaki Shion tried in Mayakashi. As long as Rule Z remains in effect, the same tragedy might happen in the 59th year of the Showa era. Basically, we gotta destroy the establishment. Got it. Perhaps that's why her friends started losing their minds under Rule X. Hinamizawa believes that the Sonozaki family is plotting and scheming, and that the tragedy is caused by the curse of Oyashiro-sama. That fact might be the main culprit behind the tragedy. People are not surprised to see somebody die on the night of Watanagashi. No, I'm coming to expect it at this point. That type of thinking is keeping the curse alive in Hinamizawa, and it causes more tragedy. It's Rule Z reinforcing itself. Rule X, Y, and Z. There are 3 rules that hunt Rika down in the eternal June of the 58th year of the Showa era. They are all tough obstacles. We didn't even find these 3 common rules until recently. Were you aware of them? If you were, I'll give you straight A's. I can't lie. I've tried so hard in the past to break these rules, but I was never successful. However, a miracle happened in the Sumi Horoboshi chapter. Yeah, it was a great miracle. Mayabara Keiichi remembered a piece of memory from another world, and he stopped the tragedy from happening to his friend. However, Rika was killed anyway that night. But one of the rules was broken in that world. Okay, so I'm getting a idea that we're gonna break the another rule in this one, and then in the final chapter, which I'm not entirely sure what it's called, we're gonna break the last rule, possibly. That was such a huge step forward. Rika knew there were 3 common rules among the worlds, but she could never break any of them. Eventually, she started giving up and lost interest in the worlds. That's how I was born. But she's different now. She learned something valuable from Mayabara Keiichi. The rules can be broken with a strong will to fight. If she can break all 3 rules, Furute Rika will be free from her eternal prison. But she doesn't have much time left. Rika has traveled through many worlds. Her physical lifespan is not a problem, but her mental lifespan is getting shorter. Mentally, she is extremely old, and her soul is starting to turn into something different. In the end, she may not be able to feel these individual worlds anymore. It's getting very close to that point. Eventually, she will start to hallucinate and completely lose her spirit as Furute Rika. Then she will disappear. That means that you and I are going to be left in this dark world. The pieces of our memories will gradually disappear, and we'll be left alone in the eternal darkness. Eventually, we will die. Furute Rika is aware of that. She knows that her mental lifespan is getting shorter and shorter. Hanyu is also losing her powers. Hanyu? She can't rewind the years of time like she used to. Is that how we're retelling these tales? Rewinding? Her power is decreasing and she can barely rewind 1 month of time. Actually, she can only rewind a few weeks. She should only have about 2 weeks in the next world. Furute Rika is going to try and break the 3 rules in just 2 weeks. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I tried to claw my way up from there. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I continued to climb when I fell and injured myself. I finally realized the higher I climb, the more pain I feel when I fall. When my curiosity toward the world and my physical pain become equal, I finally understood the meaning of the frog in the well. Friedrika Bernkastel. Fiction. Oh. Chapter 7. Minagoroshi. Damn! Higurashi when they cry. Tai. Cry Tai! I wonder why the sea is red. Okay. Alright, that's gonna kind of count as before we actually get into this. Okay, not much really happened except for a bit of a recap. I was basically just doing the creepy Rika voice the entire time, although part of me is starting to wonder if that really was, like, the creepy Rika. I'm starting to think, and Hanyu? Have I? I think I've heard that name before. Oh, God, when was that? I think it was... Maybe it was Mayakashi, I think. It was... Was it? I think it might have been during the time that Shion was, you know, fighting Rika, I think. I think. I am, like, doing my best to try to recall absolutely every vivid detail as I can with this. Thankfully, that recap did rekindle a good portion of some of my memories, including the ones where I am still kind of sitting in the corner crying my eyes out while also trying to avoid clawing my own throat out because I have to tie my wrists around each other so they don't try to reach up to my neck and try to claw my throat out, and then I'm just kind of stuck in a moment where I'm just like, okay, I need to fucking get out of here. So, we're back into Higurashi. I apologize that we had to wait close to a very, very close to an entire year for us to finally get back into this. But we're back into this, and there's no point in me waiting for the voices for the next one. So don't worry, we're not going to be waiting an entire year to get to the final chapter of Higurashi. Don't you worry. Now, there has been a couple of things, like, some people have asked me about the side chapters, and I've been thinking about it. I might do the side chapters. I'm not entirely sure about that. I might, though. So, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to probably do after this. I'm still going to debate about that. But if anything else, I might end up actually going straight into the final chapter after this. It honestly just depends. But anyway, it feels good to finally be back. I hope you guys are excited as I am for this, because I've waited way too damn long, and I know you guys have waited way too long, and once again, I will apologize for that. So, thank you all so much for watching. I hope we're going to have ourselves a very good, bloody, happy, dark time, stabby thing. And I'll see you guys in the next video.